Right, antisemitism and racism. Yeah, that'll be fun. Right, who are Semite people? Who are the Semite people in the world? Who are the Arabs in the world? Who are the people who are not Semites or Arabs? If you're an Arab, then you're a Semite. If you're not an Arab, then you're not a Semite. I'm sure the whole world's got to know that. I mean, God, Jesus. Maybe the whole world doesn't know that, of course. You would, you would think, you would think with just a simple primary school education, and and when you go into high school, that you find out things like that. That maybe people didn't go to very good schools, or depends what country you're in, I suppose, and what your education system was like. But I don't know about. Well, I do know about Israel's education system, but the people, the people who set up Israel, I don't know. They were wealthy for a start. They were Zionists for another start. The only between Israel and Palestine, who are the Arabs? Who are a race? What between Israel and Palestine? Which one of those two are a race of people? Can you call Palestinians a race of people? Can you call Israelis a race of people? There's a question. It's just a question. It's a simple, easy enough question. So, who are races and who are not races? Can you be anti-Semitic against a non-Arab? Who invented anti-Semitism? Who invented the term anti-Semitism? Wasn't it Jews? They did not invent the term. The biblical Jews. And when I speak about Jews, I'm speaking about either Jews today whose ancestry goes back to the biblical Jews, or the biblical Jews themselves. I'm not talking about Israelis. That would be stupid, and there wouldn't be any point to that. So, the biblical Jewish people did not create the term anti Semitism. Some other Arabs did, and I don't know. And don't ask me which ones, okay? It wasn't Iran either. It wasn't Persia. It was somebody else that doesn't exist anymore. Actually, there was a group of Arabs right in the centre of the Middle East, going right away back lots of thousands of years ago, and that was even before Jesus was born, actually, in Bethlehem, which is in Palestine, one might add. I read it years and years ago, and I can't remember the name of this group of Arabs, but they were the ones that came up with the term anti-Semitism, only because there was too many There were actually too many Eastern Europeans in the name of Genghis Khan trying to going over there, and some of them he sent some of his people over there, his men over there to dress up as Arabs, proclaim they're an Arab. They were as white as anything. They were as white as me. And they're going over there. They're going over to the Middle East where everybody's dark brown, and they're proclaiming to be an Arab. Obviously, that didn't work. Genghis Khan was always trying to take over parts of the Middle East without any success at all, actually. Yeah, but yeah, there was a group of Arabs. It wasn't the Jews. The Jewish people that created the term anti-Semitism, but it was for Arabs and only Arabs. But it just so happened that because the Jewish people were Arabs, it fitted them too. If the Jewish people hadn't have been Arabs, then it wouldn't have fitted them. It only fits Arabs. But they were Arabs. And they have any Jewish people are born, no matter where you are in the world. I'm talking about authentic Jewish people. I'm not talking about Zionists. Then you've got an Arab history somewhere along the lines of way back there, and the chances are a lot of you will have had people involved in the Holocaust. And when I say involved, I don't mean what the Zionists did. I mean what the Zionists did to you. Authentic Arab people, authentic Jewish people know what I'm talking about. They know what I'm talking about. You cannot be anti-Semitic towards anybody who is not an Arab. It's as simple as that, or does not have Arab ancestry. Anybody, so far as I'm concerned, any authentic Jewish people who have Arab ancestry but were born, say, over in America, born in Britain, born in the EU, born in Eastern Europe, born in China, but born anywhere. I mean, authentic Jewish people are all over the world, in China, in Japan, all over the place over there as well. They all get Arab ancestry. If you've got Arab ancestry, then, as far as I'm concerned, you're an Arab. You're an Arab, as far as I'm concerned. Therefore, people can be anti-Semitic towards you. And if they're racists, and that's another thing. Anti-Semitism is a form of racism, as we all know. Authentic Jewish people are a race of people. Therefore, one can be either anti-Semitic against them because they've got Arab ancestry, or are actual Arabs if they were born in the Middle East. You could also be racist against them too, because racism, anti-Semitism, same thing, similar, same thing. It's the same thing actually. It's not just similar, it's the same thing. Because they're a race of people. Like the Persians are a race of people. I prefer to call Iranians Persians. It sounds better, I think. I don't know. I just like that old name, Persia. Yeah. So anyway, they're a race of people too. The Jordanians have been there that long. They're the same. All of the Arabs in the Middle East are all races of people. Therefore, you can be racist against them because they are races of people. Yeah, you can be racist against someone who is a race, who is part of a race of people. That's what racism is. Racism is not about being racist against people who are not part of a race of people. People seem to think you can be racist against anybody, but that's not true. That's never been true. It never will be true. It's only people that don't know any better that would say something like that. Oh yeah, he's racist against me. No, nobody can be racist against me. Me, because I'm Scottish. Scottish people, we are not a race of people. Nobody can be racist against the English either. Because again, they're not a race of people. They're not a race. England is not a race. Scotland is not a race. Ireland, Northern or the Republic are not races. We're not races. Any Europeans, regardless of anything, they're not races either. Nobody can be racist against someone who is not a race. That's where the term racism stems from. People who have something against someone who belongs to a race of people. Not someone who has something against someone who does not belong to a race of people. Usually you tend to find that people who don't belong to races of people are the ones who are racist against races of people. And we know who that is in the world, don't we? That's all us white is. That's a common fact. It's very true. The Israelis, they are not a race of people. Obviously. Obviously. Therefore, you cannot be racist against them. And they're certainly, and because you cannot be a race, you cannot be racist against them. Their anti-Semitism is, they embarrass themselves. The only people that don't see it as an embarrassment to the Israelis are people that don't know anything about anti-Semitism, really, you know. And they think, oh my God, that Israeli called me an anti-Semite. Am I an anti-Semite? Am I really? Oh, I'm a really bad person now, am I? Oh, I'll have to go and cut my wrists. That's what they want you to believe. Yeah. But you cannot be racist against an Israeli. You cannot be a racist against any of those people, or racist against me, or I'm Scottish, or English, or Welsh, or Irish, or anything like that. And a lot of white people would argue with that. Let them argue. Let them show their pig ignorance, because that's what that is. Of course, it is. That's why the term racist sprung up out of people being doing wrong things, bad things, nasty things to people who belonged to races. Racist. You can only be racist against someone who belongs to a race of people. That's why it's termed racist. Racist against races of people, and only races of people. The rest of us who are not races of people We are just whites. We are not races. No. The term being racist against, that does not apply. It doesn't apply. Only applies to races of people. Only ever did. And that's where the term comes from, for God's sake. Yeah, these whiteys reckon they're so clever, but they don't know simple things like that. Intelligence, I wonder what they thought. I wonder, oh jeez, if that's their idea of intelligence, Yeah. So you can't be racist against whites simply because I'm not racist. We are not. Yeah, and that doesn't make us better than anybody else. No. The races in the world are a lot older than the whites. We know that anyway. The races in the world were the first ones here. At one time, they were the only ones here, weren't they? All over Africa and the Middle East. That was it. And there wasn't that many people in the Middle East, and wasn't that many people in Africa going back that far anyway. Then some Africans went across into the Middle East. And then after a very long time, some Middle Eastern people decided to take a walk over into Africa. Yeah, they did eventually. The Africans were the first to meet the Arabs. And I'm quite sure, actually, you would have to Google this. I've not Googled it before, but I'm quite sure you can get African Arabs too. Which means anti-Semitism would apply. Which, if that's the case, that would make the British going right away, colonial British going right away back, and all these other colonial entities in Europe that went to Africa and pillaged it, all anti-Semites. Yeah, and that's the thing about Israelis. They always because they're Zionists. Zionists twist things. If they know they're guilty of something, they'll twist it and they'll turn on to you to make you end up believing that you're the one. You're the one that's guilty of whatever it is they're guilty of, like anti-Semitism, for instance. Yeah. Perfect example is Jeremy Corbyn, really, here in the UK. That's a perfect example in the world, actually, of what I'm talking about here. Now, the Semite people of Palestine, the Arab Semites of Palestine, they've been there 4,500 years. That's what makes them. That's what makes them Arabs. You've got to be there that long, a long time, a bit more than 1,000, more longer than 1,000 years, more like 2,000 years before you could be your people could be. I mean, if I went over to the Middle East just now and walked into Palestine, considering it was Palestine and not taken over by a bunch of numpties who believe they're better than everybody else, then I would never be an Arab. I would never be able to become an Arab because no one person can live for like 2,000 years, and you would have to if you wanted to become an Arab. So you would have the rights behind you to say, well, I've been here all this time, therefore I'm an Arab. That's not the way it works because you don't live that long. All your future generations, and roughly about 1,500 to 2,000 years from now, can then be classed because their ancestry goes back to you 2,000 years ago, then they can be classed as Arab, and with that, a Semitic person. Semitic people, depends how many there are in it. So that's how that works. That's why the Palestinians are Arab Semite people. Jesus himself, who was born in Bethlehem, who again, I've got to point out, you just got to these days, you know, and you shouldn't have to. Bethlehem is in Palestine. And with that, Mary and Joseph, yeah. How do you what do you think they were? They were also Palestinians. Of course they were. The great whitewashing, not just of Jesus, of course, by the racist white Europeans that wanted to worship a white Jesus and not a brown one. I mean, that was anti-Semitism itself. It still is today, by the way. Even though people are brought up with it and don't realise it. When I was a little boy, I was brought up a Roman Catholic. White Jesus everywhere. Never realised that, you know, it is a form, it is anti-Semitism. Of course it is. You cannot be, even though he was whitewashed like a couple of thousand years ago, when the Roman Catholic Church came about and spread across racist white Europe. Me whitewashed up then. And just because I wasn't born then doesn't mean it's not. It's still anti-Semitism today. That anti-Semitism's carried on. It's still carried on through the Roman Catholic Church. And obviously, you know, that it was the Roman Catholics that did it, actually. So you can't really say that the Protestants are guilty of anti-Semitism with that. It's the Roman Catholics, really. They're the ones that did that. Yeah. Which is nasty. It's very, I mean, imagine it. If God, I mean, that's the thing. There isn't anybody else in the world that's ever did that to a God that they proclaim to respect and worship and love and all this, you know. Only the white racist Europeans did that to Jesus, the Son of God, that they wanted to worship as Roman Catholics. Oh yeah, I'm a Roman Catholic, but hey, wait a minute. I'm not worshipping no brown dude. Oh no, we'll have to paint his face white. And that's what they did. Because they were all slavers anyway, half of them. You know, over in Africa and in Jamaica and the West Indies and all the rest of it. And by the time the late 1600s came or something like that, that's when Britain went over there and started murdering all the Red Indians. 100 million of them. That was a Holocaust. So you see, this is what I was saying the other night there. Anybody thinking Holocaust only applies to Jews is rubbish. And you think to Jewish people will be the first ones to tell you that. Anyway. That was a Holocaust over in America with 100 million, probably the biggest Holocaust in human history, so far as we're aware. But we don't really know. Because those other things that went on before that, going further back thousands of years ago, like, yeah, that wasn't the only Holocaust. So there's been a lot more Holocausts. And that's when the term kicked in and from the ancient Greek language. Holocaust with a K, not a C. OST and not AUST. Holocaust. That's not Hebrew, Google, by the way, you half-wits. No, they tried to make out it's Hebrew. Piss off. Sounds like it, doesn't it? The way it's spelt. No. Holocaust with a K. And no AU in it. You take the AU out and put an O in instead. That's the translation from ancient Greek and English. And then for some reason we spell it differently. Don't know why. But that's the actual spelling when it's translated from ancient Greek into English. Holo. HOLO. Cost. With a K. Not a C. And not an AU. ST either. But an OST. You should Google that. Google that. And if you come across a Google trying to say it's in Hebrew, ignore it. Bloody ignore it, man. Any historians will know the same thing. I mean, Jesus. And you would think Google thinks half of us are all buttoned up the back, as we in Scotland used to say. Nobody uses that term anymore. Just me. Yeah. I'm getting older. And you're using old terms that nobody uses anymore. That proves your age. So, the Israelis, you cannot be racist against them at all, either. Just like you cannot be racist against me because I'm not a race of people. Neither are English, neither are the Welsh, neither are the French, nor the Germans, actually. None of these people are races of people. None of them. Anywhere across Europe. Anywhere in Europe. You pick a country in Europe, they're not a race of people. They never were, they never. If they were, they still would be. They're not. And that's where racism, the term racist, comes from. You're racist. You're saying bad things against a person who is a part of a race of people. You are saying something against that race of people over there. But hey, if you say something against me, you're not being racist because I'm not part of a race of people. True. Yeah, whiteys would definitely argue with that. They wouldn't like that notion that, white people, because you're white, you're not a race. We're not a race. No. Races go back to ancient times, and they're all over the Middle East and all over Africa. The Americans are not a race of people either, by the way. Neither are the Canadians, nor the white Australians. The Aborigines, of course, what's left of them are a bloody race of people. It's so sad. It really is so sad that white people seem to think that they can just wipe out races of people like that and think nothing of it. It is. What's going to be left eventually? There'll be no races of people, and everybody in the world will all be white. sometime in the future, I can see that occurring. I don't know, it'll take about 1,000 years from now, maybe, if humans are still around and they haven't blown themselves up with their nuclear weapons or something else. Then maybe it'll all be white people. Now, what will all white people do then? That's the same sort of thing that I asked the other night about the IDF. What will they do too when there's no more Palestinians to murder and torture and rape and pedoing their children too? What will they do then? They're not going to be sitting down at home, sitting reading a newspaper on a Sunday afternoon in front of a, whatever. Don't get coal-fires anymore. But you know what I mean. Nah, they're going to be the same people there today, and they'll still be in the IDF. And I can guarantee you, the IDF won't stop doing what they're doing just because there's no more Palestinians. Yeah, holy fuck. They won't be able to. How will they be able to? That's what they do. That's the people they are. There's no way they're going to be able to settle down and leave that IDF and have a normal life. Yeah. Oh, who's he? It's not going to happen. White people as a whole in the world, when there's only white people left. So what are they going to do? They're going to start categorizing themselves and picking on certain categories. I wouldn't be surprised. Because what else are they going to do? They're not all going to be sitting back relaxing, all these Zionists all over the world thinking, oh, that's it. Because there wouldn't be any point to that. They wouldn't need their Zionism anymore. And they're not going to give that up for anything. You think about it. Well, it's only white people that's left. They're going to have to do something. They're going to have to try and change the meaning of their Zionism in order to keep it. And I dare say they would. So they would end up picking on, yes, what's left in the world, all whiteys. They'd pick on somebody, and they would do something in a way that would give them an excuse to pick on certain parts of the white community around the world, probably. And just do to them what they're doing to the Palestinians right now, what they did to Red Indians, what they did to the Jamaicans, and the West Indies, and Africa. Yeah, I can see that happening in the future. I can tell you. And what's the IDF anyway? The IDF, if I were them, I would have a long think too. Because after the Palestinians are all gone, the IDF won't just be the way it is just now. That will change. And who'll change it? That Israeli government. Seriously. There's a lot of things the Israeli government, right? They're not going to just retire people when there's no more Palestinians left. And this is bloody true. You only have to think about it about this. Once there's no more Palestinians left, there's a lot of things the Israeli government knows perfectly well. Any government knows this. If they just start retiring people willy-nilly because they don't need as many and they want to save on spending lots of money on the IDF, right? So they cut them back. So what do they do with the people that knows a lot of what went on? They're going to just let them go, are they? They're going to just let them leave and have a merry little life. No. This isn't. This isn't. I mean, we're not talking about a country here. We're talking about a Zionist state. That more and more people are seen akin to the Third Reich, basically, because of the way the idea have been acting within Gaza and these days over on the West Bank. So probably, I don't know. It's up to the government what they do, isn't it? But they won't want to be letting a lot of people go out of the idea simply because they know, and there would be a risk that they would blab about everything they saw and everything they took part in while they were in the idea on a documentary in the future. There could be lots of documentaries made in the future like that, you know. I don't know. These young people on the IDF seem to think, oh great, we're doing this and you know, and these are bad people, obviously, young as they might be, in their teens, in the early 20s, and all that, and they mostly are actually. They mostly actually are. That's why they're going around gunning people down, not giving a flying fuck. That's why they do that. They don't know enough about life to be a bloody soldier in the first place. Which they're not soldiers anyway, they think they are. They're told they're soldiers. That's not being a soldier. Real soldiers don't go around just, you know, the only thing they know is murdering innocent civilians, either because of their colour, or because of their race, or because of the people you work for, or just using you to get rid of them so that the people you work for can end up stretching Israel right across the whole area of Palestine, what is no longer the Holy Land. And that's another reason why Bethlehem is not having Christmas this year. They'll probably never have Christmas over there again. Probably not. By the time Christmas next year comes, they might have been bombed. And I'm not joking. And I'm not just saying that because I'm on here. I'm saying it because it could be true. It's a possibility. It's a huge possibility, actually. We don't know what's going to happen in Bethlehem between now and then. We really don't. We don't. And for all the Christians, all the, especially the Roman Catholics, by the way, around the world just sitting here, not giving a flying fuck that someday the birthplace of their saviour is no longer going to exist. That takes a certain type of person to be able to sit at home and just relax on that and watching it, you know, happen. Don't you think? If this was back about 1,000 years ago, then Netanyahu would have started a holy war by now. That's what should be happening right now. Because the idea for in Bethlehem, that's what should be happening. There should be a holy war right now. And if that would have happened 1,000 years ago, then believe you me, the Catholics would not have lost. You only have to look at history to see what they were structured like way back then. And they were all over the Holy Land in those days in lots of different forms. And I'm talking about military, knights on horseback, things. That's what they were in those days. They were knights in shining armour, so to speak, you know. And they were all over Jerusalem, protecting Jerusalem, amongst other things. Yeah, but that was then. The Holy War would have happened in those days, and those Israelis, they'd be gone like that. Today, everybody's a coward. I mean, there are still people in the world that will fight for their faith, and they're the ones that get condemned, aren't they? We know this by the people who are too cowardly to fight for their faith because they don't really believe in their God. They don't believe in their Jesus, do they? No, of course they don't. If they did, when I was a little boy in the 1970s, I was brought up a Roman Catholic, and I was taught by the church itself, you must be willing to die for your faith. Now, the very same people today, of course, who condemn Muslims for that same thing. It's funny that, isn't it? That's what I was taught in primary school. If there was and you know, things like that were mentioned in the 1970s, where I was taught in school, the Roman Catholic school. We were taught by priests and nuns, and holy wars were mentioned actually. If there was a holy war, you must be prepared to die for your God and your faith. Number one, your God. Number two, the faith. Because the God comes first, the faith comes second. Because the faith is humanity. But the God is number one because it's better and bigger than humanity. Because the God created humanity. But I don't expect anybody on here to understand that. But all my other friends do. Who are not on here. They're all on Facebook. Yeah, but they do. Yeah. They're real people. Yeah. They're remarkable people. And for white people just to want to wipe them off the face of the earth. And they've always wanted that. And you got to laugh at it. All this nonsense about Christianity versus Islam. That's a cop out. That's a racist cop out. It really is. That's all it is. That's using religion as an excuse to get rid of the people you don't like the colour of. And it was always like that. It was always the way the white Europeans thought. And I dare say they still do today. So far as the governments go, and some actual citizens. But how many of our citizens think that way, I do not know. But I do know that all of Europe is predominantly racist. All of the EU, for a start, within Western Europe, they are all racist. I don't know about the populations, but the governments themselves are. That's why England has so many problems with people coming across the water in boats. I always laugh at that. I really do. If I was Prime Minister in England, these people, I'd be I'd be send, I'd be, I'd be, had, I would have a ferry, and I would send it over to France, and it would just sit here for days on end until it's completely full, and there would be plenty of food and things on board and everything else, and it would be very comfortable. It'd be like a floating hotel, because you've got to treat people with respect and dignity. And once that ferry was full, then it would come over to Britain with all these people on board. They would all be given houses and jobs and everything else. They'd be given brand new lives. And yeah, at first, obviously, you've got to spend. It's like everything else. You've got to spend money to accumulate. And looking at it from an economic point of view, it's a win-win situation. And if you look at it from a culture point of view, it's also a win-win situation. There's no English culture. What is English culture? Right. You go to England, different parts of England have all different cultures, all different cultural heritages, don't they? So you can't really pinpoint any one of them and say that's England. You can't do that. There was a movie brought out years ago by the English called This Is England, but it was bollocks. And it was about junkies and people like that anyway. It wouldn't exactly make any English person proud to be English, It was an abhorrent movie. It really was. Yeah, This Is England. Any foreigners, by the way, on my Facebook or my Arab friends, you should. I tell you who you'll get it on here anyway. You'll get it on YouTube. You'll get clips of it. You might actually get a whole thing on here, maybe for free and maybe not. Maybe you need to pay for it. That's not worth the bother then. But you'll see clips of it on here. This Is England. That's a laugh, by the way. All my other friends would kill themselves laughing at that. Yeah. They don't. English don't exactly show themselves to the world in a good light in that movie. Definitely not, man. I mean, come on. There is no definition of This Is England because every different region of England has all uh, their different heritages, which makes them like you could split it up and consider them instead of regions, call them individual little countries, and you would find they would be just like that with all the different heritages and everything, and all the different ways of living. It's still completely different from each other. And cuisine, English cuisine, British cuisine as a whole, even Scottish cuisine is ridiculous, you know what I mean? There is no cuisine in Britain, whether it be Welsh, whether it be Scottish, whether it be English. or Northern Irish for that matter. Their cuisine is just the same as the rest of us. It's bollocks. The only thing that makes our cuisine better is all the Indian restaurants and, all these different things, Chinese restaurants and Taiwanese restaurants and things like that. We've got their cuisine in our country, partly anyway, but it's still different. It's not the same. If you go to an Indian takeaway and you get an Indian curry and it tastes brilliant, they do taste brilliant, right? But if you go over to India and get an Indian curry, it's completely different. And I'll tell you, they're just as good, but they're different. They're different. You don't get that in very hot curries in India or even Pakistan for that matter. You don't make them that way. They only make them that way for the British because that's the way the British like them. Yeah. Yeah, all the food in all these restaurants are all tailor fitted to the British taste, which is totally different from the original taste of the people of those countries. Mm, yeah, true. Yeah, I bet you there's tons of racists in England that actually buy curries. There's a point. All these petty racists in England. Are you telling me that you've never ate a curry from an Indian or a Chinese takeaway or a takeaway? It's Pakistanis that run it and cook the curries. Yeah. Are you telling me you've never tasted any of these? Or are you hypocrites and you actually went and bought curries out of takeaways even though you're racists? Fucking hell, what? That'd be a good one, eh? Snapping some racists. Well, you don't get cameras anymore. A phone camera, snapping racists on phone cameras, getting into a Chinese takeaway and coming out with the goods. Yeah, put it all over YouTube. There they are there. Racist little bastards, hypocritical little cunts. They wouldn't like that, would they? Being found out. Yeah, because all those little racists are proud to be racist, by the way. They're really proud of it. Another reason why this movie, This Is England, came out years and years and years ago. Yeah. An abhorrent movie, as I said before. Very abhorrent. But Israel, no, they're not. That's not a race of people, so you cannot be racist against them. And if you cannot be racist against someone, obviously anti-Semitism is the same thing. Anti-Semitism, racism, same thing. All the difference is you can only be anti-Semitic to someone who's an Arab. Obviously a Semite. And that's not Israelis. No. Anyway, I'm out of here.